All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Molly Brown and I'm an advisor here at North. Jillian, do you want to introduce yourself?
I will, yeah, thanks, Molly. My name's Jillian Fisher, and I use the pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm also an advisor at North. And thanks so much for being here. And Sarah, thank you for letting us join your class. And today we're going to be talking about educational planning. So that's the point of this presentation today. I will just say that we really welcome questions. So please don't hesitate to, if you have a question, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask. You're fine to interrupt us. If you feel more comfortable putting it into the chat, that's fine as well. And Molly, I can monitor the chat since you're sharing your screen.
Okay, so like Jillian said, we're here to talk about educational planning. So first of all, what are we doing? We're going to talk about the steps to create an educational plan, and we're also going to show you how you can access one that maybe an advisor has created, how you can find out what you need to put in your educational plan, and create yours. So first of all, what is an educational plan? It's kind of an academic term. Well, specifically, it is an outline of the classes you plan to take each quarter while you are at North. It should include all of these three things: all of the degree or program requirements that you need to complete to earn the credential you're planning. If applicable, if you're planning to transfer, it should include any admission or major admission requirements for the university where you'd like to go. And it should also take into account any prerequisites, classes that you need to complete at the beginning, as well as sequences of courses. So that's what an educational plan is. And why is it important? Why do we want to talk to you about it? Well, we feel as an advisor that it is really important to help you make sure that you take the classes that you need, avoid taking classes you don't, to help you know when you will graduate and incorporate anything that is particular to your personal timeline. So it helps you know how you're getting from here to your goal. Things you need to consider when you are creating your educational plan: are you bringing any credits with you from a previous college, from college credits you earned in high school? Maybe that's through advanced placement or IB exams, maybe that's Running Start. You need to think about your major or career goals. So we asked as we were beginning, hey, what are you thinking about doing? Do you know? And then you also want to think about any place that you want to go afterwards. So if that's a transfer degree, a school that you'd like to transfer to, or if it's a professional technical degree, are there particular industries or companies where you want to end up working? If you are a Running Start student, we do not require this of you. For other students, we want you to complete this educational plan by the time you get done with your second quarter at North. But if you're a Running Start student, you don't have to do that. We do encourage you to do it if you are going to earn an associate's degree. All right, now I'm going to turn things over to Jillian.
Sure. So in advising, we've identified three really key steps to create an effective educational plan. So the first step is to really to know what your goals are. So you need to know what your goals are so you know what you're working towards, right? Like if my goal is to be a nurse, what I would be working on would be very different than if my goal was to be an architect. So again, what are your longer term goals so that we can make sure we're identifying the program, so either the certificate or degree or just prerequisites that you need for whatever that next step is. So thinking about your goals is really important so that you know what you're shooting for. And then the second step is once you have started to identify what your longer term career and educational goals are, is to know what your program is. And when we're talking about program, we use program in terms of what is the certificate or degree that you're working on at North. And what we do at North is we take all of our programs and we put them into what we call an area of study. So an area of study is just a big, broad, general category. So you can see on this slide the 7 different areas of study that we offer at North. And every certificate or degree that we offer would fall into one of these larger categories, area of study. So for example, we have business and accounting is an area of study, but within business and accounting, there's a lot of different degrees or certificates you could choose to work on. So even if you don't know your specific certificate or degree right away, you can at least try to start narrow down which area of study seems the most interesting to you. And you can go to the next slide, Molly, thanks. So after our area of study, we take all of our programs and then we put them into two different categories, either a transfer degree or program or a career training. So transfer degrees are intended for students that are planning to transfer to a university and to continue on with their education. However, we offer a variety of transfer degrees. So again, it's really important to know which one you should be working on or want to be working on. And the reason a student would pick one of these transfer degrees over another is generally based off what they want to study once they get to the university. So it's not enough to say, I want to earn a transfer degree or I want to earn an associate degree. You need to know which one because they all have different requirements to them. So the first transfer degree that we'll talk about today is the Associate of Arts or the AA degree. This is the one that people usually are the most familiar with or have heard of most regularly. And this doesn't necessarily mean drawing or painting art, although it definitely could mean that, but it stands for liberal arts. So basically what we're talking about with this degree is if students want to study something within arts, humanities, or social sciences, they're probably working on the AA degree. So really common things that we hear regularly from students that they want to study at the university while doing the AA with us at North is they are thinking about studying something like psychology, communications, political science, history, English, something like that. Okay, so again, arts, humanities, and social sciences. And I see a note in the chat, what would you use for early childhood education? So that's a great question. Early childhood education can get a little complicated because it depends on what you want to do. If you're interested in working in a preschool, we have an early childhood education program at North. So that would be a great program to work on. That's to work in a preschool. If you're thinking about elementary school, then you're definitely usually working on the Associate of Arts degree to be an elementary teacher. So I'll leave it at that, but please, we can get into more detail on that later if you want. For our STEM folks, so science, technology, engineering, and math, we actually offer 3 different science degrees. We have the Associate of Science General, the Associate of Science Option 1, and the Associate of Science Option 2. Again, the reason that you would choose one over the other would really depend on what you think you want to major in at the university. Of the science degrees, the general science degree is the most flexible of the 3 science degrees. And that's pretty common for maybe like a math major or a biology major, really common for some of our students that want to study a Bachelor of Science in nursing. The option 1 and option 2 degrees are less flexible because they have those majors at the university usually have more math and science specific prerequisites. So we try to build those into the degree. So option 1 is very common for students that are thinking about chemistry, maybe biochemistry or geological sciences. And option 2 is very common for our students that want to get into engineering or maybe physics, sometimes computer science. Again, if you're interested in the STEM area, but you're not sure which degree is the best fit, just meet with an advisor and we can help you determine that. For our students that are interested in transferring to university to study business, we have an Associate of Business degree, and that could be a general business major. It could be finance or accounting, something more specific. And then we do have an Associate of Fine Arts or AFA. That is the drawing painting one. So that's the one where students are like, I want to be an artist. I'm really interested in studio and fine art. And the reason it has a star behind it is it does transfer to university. It just transfers a little differently because it's heavily focused on studio art classes as opposed to more general education classes. So that's usually a good fit for students that are thinking about an art school or a very specific fine art major. And we can go to the next one. Thanks, Molly. And then I also mentioned, so those were our transfer degrees. We also have tons of career training programs. So our career training programs are for students that are not necessarily interested in transferring to a university. They're more interested in either transferring to what's called a Bachelor's of Applied Science at a community college, which I'll explain a little bit more, or just doing training to get into a specific career or job. So sometimes people call these professional, technical, or vocational. It all sort of means the same thing. So for these degrees, students, depending on what they're working on, may choose to also get an associate degree, but it's called Associate of Applied Science, even if it's not something that we think of as science oriented. So back to that example of early childhood education. We have a career training program for early childhood education to work in preschool. We don't think of working with preschool kids usually as a science, but the degree is called Associate of Applied Science. And what that applied science part means is kind of two things. One, these are very hands-on programs. You're learning by doing because you're learning a specific career or job. So you have a lot of internships, labs, we're actually learning how to do the job. The other thing is they're very focused. So the transfer degrees, no matter which transfer degree you work on, you're going to need to do some English, some math, some arts and humanities, some social science, some science, a little bit of everything. These are much more focused on that career. So if I'm doing a real estate degree, I might not be taking biology and history classes. I'm taking classes that teach me how to be a real estate agent and how to sell houses. Okay, very focused on that career. Some of our career training programs offer what's called an Associate of Applied Science Transfer, or AAST. This is a little confusing because it's, again, not necessarily a transfer degree to transfer to a university, although there are some universities that you can transfer to. These are really meant to transfer to what I was talking about, those Bachelor's of Applied Science programs. So a lot of the community college has a 4-year bachelor's degree, and those might transfer into those. So if you don't know, at North, we currently offer 5 different Bachelors of Applied Science. Not 5, 6. We're starting a new one. Sorry, 6. So we're up to 6 now. And then also in our career training programs, we have a lot of certificate programs. So certificates are short-term programs. Some are only 1 quarter, some are multiple quarters. It depends on the certificate you're doing. Some students are only doing a certificate because that's all they need for their certain career field that they want to get into. We have a lot of students sometimes that are already working in that industry, come back, and if they earn a certificate or 2, they may be able to get a promotion or a pay raise. Or we have this nifty thing that we call stackable certificates. So some students that are working on the AAS or the AAST might be able to actually earn certificates within the full degree that they're working on. And I see a note that someone's interested in the Bachelor's of Applied Science in our application development. Yeah, that's a great program. It's very popular. They get a lot of students that apply to that. So we can, if you have questions about what degree would be the best fit to work up into that Bachelor's of Applied Science, we can help with that information. So tons and tons. I've lost track, Molly. I don't know if you remember how many certificates or degrees we have in career training, but it's quite a few. So again, if you're not sure which one is the best fit for you and your career goals, meet with an advisor and we can help get you on track for the right one.
And I would also say, if you're not sure, well, you're in a class with someone who's teaching that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, which I think I have my, you want to go to the next slide? Kind of relates to that. So we have some folks that are undecided always. I think that came up in the poll that we had at the very beginning. And that's okay. There's also time to explore. So for undecided students, we do have a special advisor that works with undecided students. And for folks that are in Sarah's class, she's one of our amazing counselors, along with Jenny. A lot of what they do is working with students to help them identify those longer term career goals. So that's awesome. You can work with Jenny or Sarah individually. I know some of you in this room are taking Sarah's HDC 101 class. We also offer a HDC 100. So it's another 2-credit class that focuses specifically on career planning. So there's lots of resources to decide, try to figure out what area of study or what certificate or degree is good for you. And as Molly mentioned earlier, we want people to try to decide by their second quarter so that we can get you going on your ed plan so that your time at North is really efficient. We can skip that one.
Well, I just wanted to say,
what do you want to say? Okay.
Somebody put in their interest in the chat. If other students would like to share maybe what degree or major or career training program they're thinking about, that would be really interesting for us to know.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Molly.
And please continue to do that as we move on. Okay, so step 3. So we've talked about what is an ed plan, know your goals, figure out how your goals meet with requirements at North. Or step 2, figure out your program that meets with your goals. Step 3 is to know the specifics about the requirements in your degree or certificate. So what are all the different elements that need to be completed for you to earn that credential? Whether you're planning to transfer to a 4-year college or you're pursuing a career training degree, you want to look at all the different types of requirements that you might need to fulfill and bring those together so that you can create a plan that helps you fulfill all of them. And it's best if you can figure out kind of that sweet spot where they overlap so that you can be the most efficient. So for instance, with transfer students, you want to figure out, okay, what are the degree requirements for your particular transfer degree? Do you need to take a particular math class, a set of science classes, etc.? And related to that, well, what do you need to do to get into the university that you're choosing? For example, are there specific admission requirements that you need to fulfill? This might be for the University of Washington, making sure that you've met minimum requirements for studying foreign language or math requirements. And then a third thing to think about is the major requirements that you need to fulfill to begin the major when you get to the university. When you're a transfer student, you're preparing for your major that you will then study once you transfer, and so you want to make sure that the classes you take at North help you prepare to get into that major directly in your 3rd year of college, or what would be like a junior year of college. And so you want to think about all 3 of those things, and with the help of an advisor, figure out as much as possible how they might overlap so that you can use your time as efficiently as possible. And for career training, similarly, you need to look at, well, what are the specific requirements for your degree or certificate? It may be really important to think about sequences. Because you're learning specific skills, they often build on each other. Or courses may not be offered very often, and so you need to plan carefully when you take particular classes. There may also be specific internship or practicum requirements that you need to complete steps before you can enroll in those classes and have those experiences. So again, thinking about all of those things in tandem so that you can make a sensible plan to get you through your credential and get you further toward meeting your goals. So thinking about that sequencing, we want to talk about prerequisites for a minute. So I've mentioned prerequisites, and a lot of students come to me and say, oh, I'm at North working on my prereqs. What they actually mean is they're working on their general education requirements. A prerequisite is a class that you have to take, or a requirement that you need to fulfill before you do something else. So English 101 is a really common prerequisite for other classes. So I'm going to use that as an example. Maybe give me a thumbs up if you've taken English 101 or are in it now. It is a prerequisite for psychology, nutrition, English, and a specific history class. In general, when you see that a class is listed as a prerequisite, you only need to have passed that class to go on to the next one. So you have to have gotten a passing grade in English 101 in order to take one of these classes the next quarter. There are some other specific requirements sometimes, and I'll have an example of that on the next slide. Sometimes prerequisites build on themselves. So for instance, I've got Psychology 200 down here. If anyone's interested in nursing, this is a class you're going to need to take to apply to a nursing program. It's Lifespan Development Psychology. It lists Psychology 100 as a prerequisite, Introduction to Psychology. That kind of makes sense. Psychology 100 in turn lists English 101 as a prerequisite. So it's part of that sequencing that you need to think about in terms of planning your classes. If you know, okay, I need to take Psych 200, you need to work backwards and first take Psych 100 and then take English 101 to begin with. So prerequisites can get even more complicated than that, and I'll have some other examples. But here I want to just show you where you can find prerequisite information. This is a couple of screenshots from the current class schedule, and you'll see for this class, this is Public Speaking, CMST 220. It has what's called in the class schedule an enrollment requirement of English 101 eligibility. So that means not that you have to have completed English 101, but that you need to be ready to go into it with some kind of placement. So maybe that's completing the class before English 101, or maybe it's using your high school transcript or taking a placement test. The more complicated example is Anatomy and Physiology, another nursing class. And this one has 2 course prerequisites and specific grade example or specific grades required. So to be ready to go into this class, students have to complete Biology 160 and Chemistry 121, each with a 2.0 grade or better. Now, one thing I want to point out about prerequisites is we assume success. So going back, if you are enrolled in English 101 this term, well, registration is going to begin fairly soon. Maybe somebody can put in the chat if they know when registration is going to begin. So say you're in English 101 and you want to go ahead and sign up for English 102 next quarter. You do not have to wait until you have passed English 101. So we assume success, we assume you're going to pass the class, and you should be able to sign up for English 102 when registration becomes available to you. Now, if something happens and you end up not finishing English 101 as you expect, then you'll make changes. But otherwise, don't wait. Go ahead and register as soon as you can and get the classes that you want. Okay, so that's prerequisites. And we've gone over the 3 steps that we want students to take to start your educational plan: know your goals, figure out how that matches with your program, and dig down deeper and figure out your requirements. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jillian, who will show you some tools to help create this plan.
Great, thanks, Molly, and awesome participation in the chat, everyone. Thanks. I tried to put in some links in there, so but keep chatting away, or also feel free to unmute yourself if you prefer to just ask a question. So as we've been talking about this today, we've been talking about what is an education plan, why is it important, what are the things you want to include, and now I want to show you some of the online tools that you can use to work on this. So I am going to let me get my screen open. And I'm sharing my screen. Now, can everybody just see our main homepage? I saw Molly shaking her head, so okay, I think you guys can all see that. Perfect. Okay, so here's my first tip for you all. If you don't generally use this student tab right up here, I encourage you to start using it. This is a super, super helpful page on our website, specifically for students. I'll come back up here because we're going to use some of these quick links, but I do just want to show you, you can see some news, you can see stuff on Twitter, our Twitter feed, but really in these blue boxes, there's different categories and links to pretty much almost anything you would need as a student. So again, really ideal page because websites can be hard to navigate sometimes. So I do really recommend using this page regularly. So the first step in being able to work on your education plan is to know what are the requirements you need for your specific degree or certificate and what you've already completed and what you might still need to complete. So the way that you're going to first check that is in your CTC Link account. So if we come to CTC Link and log in, I'm logging in as a fake student, but you would log in with your normal CTC Link ID number and then whichever password you created, and hopefully you all remember that information of how to log in. So once you've logged into the CTC Link system, if you click here where it says student homepage, you're going to get to this page that has a bunch of different tiles on it. I am assuming that most of you have used this manage classes because that's where you went to register for classes potentially. But there's lots of things that you can do in CTC Link if you haven't explored it yet. What we're going to focus on right now is this tile that says academic progress. So if I click on this tile, some stuff is going to pop up and have a menu over here on the side, and something is going to come over here called academic progress. Now, there's lots of other things that you can do in here, but what we're going to look at today is academic progress. So what is this? This is basically a report that says what is required for whatever certificate or degree you're working on, and it is identified with what you are coded for in our system. So if you come to this page, and it's going to tell you right here, this is for the Associate of Arts. This is just the fake student. If whatever degree is listed here and that's not what you're working on, please contact us in advising, or you could also contact the registration office to get that corrected. We need this system, CTC Link is very much only functions when the data is accurate, because what's going to happen here is you're only going to be able to pull a report for what you're coded for. And what I recommend is up in the corner here where it says view report as a PDF. I think this is the easiest way to look at this information. It's still a bit complicated for how you're going to look at it, but it's easier to see it in a PDF format, in my opinion. So again, it's going to tell you what is the name of the degree or certificate you're coded for. If it's not accurate, please let us know so we can get that adjusted. Then it's going to tell you what is required. Now, kind of a lot of information in here. It can be a little challenging to read. So I encourage you to kind of read it over. There's lots of information, little pieces of, tidbits here and there. But also, I do recommend reviewing this with an advisor as well, because it can be a little complicated. But as you can see here, for the Associate of Arts degree, you're going to see here, okay, there's an English composition requirement of 10 units. Now, CTC Link uses the term units. We usually use the term credits. So just think of it as 10 credits of English composition. If you've already completed that requirement, you're going to see something here that says satisfied. So it tells you, yes, you've already completed it. It's also going to tell you what was required for that. So this requires English 101 for 5 credits or units, and English 102 for 5 credits or units, which is 10. If you've completed either 1 or 2, or you've taken some classes within that area, you're going to see, okay, here's the courses used. So again, this is a fake student, but this wouldn't really happen that in the same quarter they take English 101 and 102, but it's a fake student. So it's going to tell you what quarter you took it, the name of the class, or the number, the name, the grade you received, and then units again, how many credits was that worth? And then type. TR here means transfer. So if you transferred, Molly talked about before, if you have any previous college credits, either through another college or a high school credit program that gave you college credits, we want to get those transferred in because we never want you to repeat something you've already completed. So TR stands for a transfer credit. If you've taken the class at North, instead of saying TR, it says EN. I don't need, Molly, do you know what? I still haven't figured out exactly what that stands for, but no, you don't either. Okay, but EN, just know under type if it says EN, it's a class you finished at North. And then it'll go through and tell you if you've satisfied something. It's many pages. So I'm going to scooch down because I want to show you what you would see if it's something's not finished. So if you haven't done something, for example, this fake student has not completed the US cultures requirement. So it's going to tell you not satisfied. And when something is not satisfied, it's going to tell you, okay, what are all the classes you could take to meet that requirement? So if I'm looking through this and it's mine and I'm like, okay, I haven't done US cultures yet. I know I need to do that. Oh, look at all these classes I can choose from to meet that requirement. I will say when you see a big long list of classes, just know we don't always offer every single one of these classes, and we don't always offer every class every single quarter. So it just depends on the class. When you're having a class that you're taking, so for example, this fake student is currently taking HDC 100, that career planning class I was telling you about, and it's going to say IP. That just stands for in progress. So that just means, oh, those are the classes I'm currently taking because I don't have a grade yet because I'm taking the class right now. You'll be able to also see things like, you know, how many units or credits are required for the degree overall. So this one is 90 credits total. This fake student has completed 89.5. So it's going to give you a recap of all of that. So what you're, again, this has a lot of information. So take your time through it. It is many pages, but if you have questions, you'll want to meet with an advisor and we can review this with you. But the idea is you go through this first, you see what it is that's required for your degree or certificate, and then what you've completed and what you still have left to take. Now, if you want to check something that's a different degree, you're like, oh, you know what? I thought I wanted to do this, but maybe I wanted the associate of business degree and I'm wondering how close I am to that. There's something that's called a what if report. So if you click on this, you can say create a new report and you can pick, you know, right now it was for the associate degree and maybe I want to see how I'm going to do on the business degree, or I want to pick something totally different. So you can see how you would be, how close you would be to any of our certificate or degrees by running the what if, but the academic progress is just going to be one that you're currently coded for. Okay. So that's step one. Step two is, again, I'm going back to our homepage. I'm going to the student tab. And this time I'm going to go to My North. So I'm going to click on this, and this is where it's a little different. The login here, so if I go to login, student sign in, it's not my CTC link ID anymore. This is your My Seattle Colleges login. So that's usually your first name, period, last name. Although if you're like Molly, there's another Molly Brown out there. So I think you're Molly.Brown too, right? Yeah, so it might not exactly be that, but it's similar to that. If you haven't set up your My Seattle Colleges account yet, you'll want to do that. That's how you access this thing, My North. It's how you access Starfish, which is where you can schedule appointments with advisors, your college email, Office 365. When we're ever back on campus, it's logging into computer labs. So again, I'm signing in as a fake student. And then, so it's that and whatever password you created. And you'll know you're logged in when you see your name up here at the top. Okay. So now, if I want to actually start working on my ed plan, I click on this. Now, Molly and I just started making a fake one in here for this fake student. I will say the other day, it wasn't allowing us to make a new one. People are working on it. There's been some technical issues. So I hope it's working now. If not now, it should be working soon. So if you get to this and you try to go to create an ed plan and it doesn't let you, just keep trying or just get in touch with us. There's just a few little glitches that are being worked out. So again, as Molly explained, an education plan is just an outline of each class, the classes you think you're going to take each quarter. So for example, this fake student, we have English 101 in summer, we have English 102 in fall, we've got math. You know, if you want to add a class, you just add a plus sign and think, oh, maybe this student, I want to take drawing. So I want to take art in winter quarter. And I also want to take a biology class because I'm going to get into eventually nursing or something. And as Molly had said, oh, you need biology 160 to get into our anatomy and physiology class. So maybe I'll say I want to take biology 160 or something like that. And I just say add courses, and then you can see them populate in there. If I decide I didn't really want to take that drawing class, that didn't work with my schedule, or I changed my mind, I can click on the class and I can say delete it. If I decided I wanted to switch it to a different quarter, maybe I say, oh, you know what? I don't want to take English in fall. I'd rather take it in winter. So I'll pull it up and I can say select new quarter, and I'm going to go to winter and say update course. And it's supposed to move over. Maybe I didn't. We'll say, well, we'll just pick any quarter and say update. Okay, there we go. Oh, now I have it twice. It was just, I was going faster than the system. So then I'm like, oh, I don't really need it in there twice. Let me get rid of this one. I can delete it. So again, you're just making a draft. Now here's a couple of tips. If you're doing something like math, or a world language, you know, Spanish, French, Japanese, or maybe a chemistry sequence or an accounting sequence, or something that really builds upon itself and is multiple quarters, we strongly recommend that you do those all in a row so that you don't forget what you learned. So say I took math 98 this quarter, which is intermediate algebra. And if I didn't take my next math class in winter and then I waited until spring, I just had several months of no math. And I'm probably going to forget a lot of what I learned. So again, it's really key to take these classes in order if they're a sequence. Also, you know, there's a lot of classes that we offer that only maybe happen certain quarters. They may not be offered every single quarter. Students don't always know that. Advisors usually know, but we can also never guarantee anything. But we usually have a pretty good guess of when classes are going to be offered. So again, sometimes you'll only be able to fit things into certain quarters based off when they're offered. We recommend you can do your ed plan in one of two ways. A lot of students like to go ahead and give it a try, come up with a draft themselves, and then meet with an advisor and review it. So that's a great option if you're someone like, I want to give this a shot and see how it goes, and then meet with an advisor and we can say, yep, that looks good. Or, you know what, this class is only offered this quarter, so let's switch, move some stuff around. Or, oh no, this class has a prerequisite and you don't have that prerequisite built in, or something like that. Or some students like to just meet with an advisor and do it with an advisor from the beginning. Either way is fine. I will also say that these education plans, it's not that you do it once and you're done. Okay, you do it and you should always be reviewing it, always be looking at it, maybe adjusting and revising. It's like a work in progress. It's not you do it once and it's set in stone and it's done. You do it and you keep revising and looking at it because things change, plans change. And that's just the way that goes. So I am going to, I see there's some chats, but I can't see them very well while this, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. Yes, Molly, never, an ed plan never stays. It's never once done and that's the way it is forever. Things usually change. So I want to stop from right there. But what questions are popping up for folks now? Because Molly and I have done a lot of talking. I know there's been some chats, but I want to see what other questions.
There's, I think, just one student question. There's some great tips from Sarah to find resources, you know, set up your email. And I know, Jillian, you're going to show us how to schedule an appointment, right?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. But there's one question: is there a catalog of some sort to show anticipated course offerings? You know, that's one nice thing about CTC Link. So advisors and the divisions that organize the classes, they do have an annual schedule, and so advisors have access to what the instruction division plans to offer in many cases, but that sometimes changes. CTC Link, we're told you will be able to see further into the future as to when classes will be offered. And so you may even be able to see a couple, 3-4 quarters out, like for an academic year. So when you look at the class schedule, Jillian, I don't know, maybe you want to bring up the class schedule and you can show when you're looking at the quarter, you can choose from a drop-down menu which quarter you want to look at. And so you can look further. Right now, we have spring, summer, and fall available. But I think we're going to be able to see winter and spring 2022 in the not too distant future.
So the easiest way that I think to get to the class schedule is go to the homepage and just go to view classes. And I know we put into the chat earlier that registration for both summer and fall are going to start May 17th. So you already have access to look at summer and fall schedules. You will see winter and spring here, but I don't think those are in there yet. So, but as Molly mentioned, you should be able to see further in advance in this new system what classes might be offered, but it can be a little challenging. So again, that's a helpful thing to meet with an advisor about, because we usually have a pretty good indication of when classes are going to be offered that we hear from the instructional deans. So yeah, Molly, did you want me to show how to schedule an appointment? Okay. So one thing I will also show you, I didn't mention, is that we had talked about areas of study earlier. We also assign advisors to you based on your area of study so that you're matched up with an advisor who knows most about what you're working on. So if you want to know who we are, there's a couple ways to see that. If you go to Student Services and Advising, you'll get to the advising webpage and you go to who we are. You're going to see some videos, some pictures and of who we are, and it tells you what our areas of study are under our names. Now, if you are a Running Start, if you're a Running Start student, then you're specifically to work with our Running Start advisors. If you're a Seattle Promise student, you're going to work with a Seattle Promise retention specialist. It's not indicated on this webpage. If you're an international student, your advisor would be in the international programs office. And then minus a couple special programs like our early childhood education and our watch technology. Besides those, you're going to work with one of us. So, you know, you can see here I work with students in arts, design, and graphics, and social sciences, humanities, and languages. And here's Molly. Molly also social sciences, humanities, and languages, and then STEM. Okay, so you'll be able to see, or you can see in Starfish, which is where you would go schedule an appointment. So let's go back to the My North. It doesn't work as like, gotta get used to it now that it's in a new system. Oh, I think I'll just need to. Well, you can just go here, back from the student page, you can just go to Starfish. And your Starfish login is the same as your My North, which is again your My Seattle Colleges, not CTC Link. I know it's super confusing. I can put a chat in about a PDF that has some, or unless you have it, Molly, that kind of shows how to log into the different systems. I'll put it in there. So Starfish is how you'll schedule an appointment with your advisor or other folks too. It's not only advisors that are in Starfish. When you log in, you should see your assigned advisor. So again, I said that Molly and I were both social sciences, humanities, and languages, which is why this fake student shows both Molly and I. Okay, so your assigned advisor should pop in. Your instructors for that quarter would show up. If you're connected to any other services on campus, like I believe Trio shows up in there. Some of our other programs, you might see a lot of people in what's kind of called your connections. So say you want to schedule an appointment with Molly. If you click the 3 dots here, well, you could look at Molly's profile, you could send Molly an email, or you could schedule an appointment. So you're going to see over here, what do you need help with? And I'm going to see this drop-down menu, and we're like, oh, I want to meet with Molly to work on my ed plan. So I'll click that so Molly knows why we're meeting. and I will say continue. And then I can see all the times that Molly's available. And you can go out, several, if it's like, oh, this week's not going to work, or next week, want to meet, you can choose, pick a time. So let's say, oh, Tuesday, May 11th, that one looks good. I will click that. I will say continue. A location. So we're not on campus right now, but we are able to meet with students over phone or Zoom. So you can pick which one is most convenient for you. So I'm going to say Zoom. I could tell Molly something, Molly, oops, not Molly. Molly, I want to work on biology or something. Not typing well, on a biology major or something, I have a question. Anyway, if you give us some information, it helps us. And then you can say confirm, and it is confirming, and tell me, great, here's my appointment time with Molly, here's the Zoom link. If you decide you need to change that, I'm going to take this so that the fake student's not taking a spot on Molly's calendar, but can make a change to this appointment. I will say, actually cancel this, or you could just change it to a different date, but I want to cancel it because it's a fake student. So the other thing is in Starfish. So now you just showed you how to schedule an appointment or cancel one if you need to. If you go up here and there's a drop-down menu, you can edit your profile if you need to do any profile editing. Also, there's a dashboard here where you can see all the stuff, calendars, if you got any notifications from anybody, who's your people, all different kinds of stuff that you can see in Starfish. Molly, was there anything else you want me to show in Starfish? Okay, so I will stop sharing that. So again, I know that we just have a couple more minutes, but does anybody have any other questions that Molly or I could try to answer right now?
I think I'll go ahead and stop the recording. So thank you
Perfect.
very much.